they feel like they have control, like they feel like, like the truckers. They felt like they had some type of control once their voice was heard, and shared. Because truckers are like friends, like they see each other and they like have to hang out in the same area. And like they like probably see each other like at like convenience stores, like buying breakfast or something, And like, so they're really good friends. So all those people are friends and they all like became a group and they were like, oh, we have a voice. So now they felt like they had control.
So I guess the problem is where their voice is. I'll say something about that. By the way, any of you guys joggers, runners, you jog on the streets? Any of you guys do this if you're a runner and you come across another runner, you're supposed to give them the nod. You're supposed to give them the little hi, what's up? It's like you guys know nothing about each other, but you both jog, so nod. It's like when I'm in stores right now, I told you I've never worn a mask inside of a store. And I pass by these people and they're not wearing it also, and they always give me the. I'm just like, I don't know you, dude. I just want to get some avocados and leave, I'm trying to join anything. There's an interesting idea. Here might be an example. So we all know about Democrats and Republicans. And we tend to think of it kind of like this. I'll ask you, what are some things that, what do we think of as Democrats as standing for?
Free stuff.
Free stuff. Meaning what?
Welfare.
But what are they after? In other words, if you ask them, what would Democrats say that they were after?
Equality.
What's that?
Universal health care.
Equality. Health care. Anything else? Anybody know how they feel about, about war?
They don't like it.
So maybe might say anti-war, maybe we say that.
Police reform.
Police reform. Yeah. In other words, and again, it's important for us to think of this. If we think of what are Democrats after? I don't know, communism? No. If you ask Democrats what they're after, what would they say? And these are the kinds of things that they would say. And I wonder how many of us, when we look at this stuff, would be against these kinds of things. Probably not many. What are Republicans after? You ask them.
You work for what you earn? Or you have to work for things, basically?
Tax break.
Lower taxes. Oh, that sucks. We don't know.
No, I feel like they're kind of like everybody for themselves.
Yeah, selfish.
That's all we know.
Pro-second
Sucks. Hey, constitutional. I ask because where we live here are probably mostly this. And we can make a long list of what these folks are about. And if I ask what these folks are about, you see how we stumble to even figure out, I don't know, what do they stand for? What are they about? We struggle to be as fair to both sides. And it's important to know what both sides stand for, because otherwise, of course, all that's happening is we're not really having any kind of a debate at all. We're just saying, which side are you kind of like raised into, one or the other. When we look at this, most of us probably wouldn't disagree with either of these two sides. If we look at just this list, we might be like, I don't know, man, two great parties. I'm not sure which one to pick from. They both have great things. But there are differences between them. But I think that what you're going to find is that we could probably take these two lists and go like this and put them together. So, for example, we say we tend to think of Republicans as being like a side that's more into war. Well, when we had these wars, and then Obama came into power, what wars were stopped? None. They were all continued. They were extended. And when we think about in terms of the taxes, you might say, oh, Republicans are in favor of lower taxes and less spending. When have they ever done that, though? When did they ever actually lower taxes? When did they ever actually spend less money? They don't. They're just things that we say. They're both in favor of it. They'll both say different things, but they both do the same thing. But as long as you stay within this paradigm right here, for the most part, people will allow you to talk politics, for the most part. What other, are these the only two parties that exist in the country, though? Anybody know other parties that exist?
Libertarian.
So we have libertarians.
Socialist.
Socialist.
Natural or...
You're looking them up. That's not the point. There's a whole bunch, like the Green Party, Natural Rights Party you're thinking of, Socialist Party, Libertarian. I don't know, I think they're still around, the Reform Party. Somewhere up here you've got Independents, who are part of neither party. There's all kinds of political parties. In fact, if you, those of you who get the voting guide sent to your house, you can look at it, flip through and see the candidates. There'll be all kinds of parties you've never heard of before. But we're kind of conditioned to believe these are the only two choices. And if you don't want to pick from one of these two, let's say that you're part of the Green Party, or you like the Green Party candidate, people will tell you, oh my God, if you vote Green, you're going to throw your vote away. Why? Because they're not going to win anyway. So if you vote from them, you're taking a vote away from one of these two parties, and then your party just might lose, because of your one vote, I guess. You're going to cost someone the election. But the point is that it's your vote. So you should vote for the one that you find to be most persuasive, the one that you support. Otherwise, you're putting your support behind something that you don't really support. And then you get conditioned to do that. You get conditioned to support things that you really don't support in the workplace, in society, raising a family, in all kinds of areas. You just kind of get conditioned to, well, the one I want to do isn't the one that's going to win, so I might as well pick one of the ones that's going to win. You know, right and wrong isn't determined by who wins. Right and wrong, well, I guess who wins is determined by how we vote. And yet we've kind of been conditioned for this. The point is that if you let people debate within these two parties right here, well then of course, we have Fox News and we have CNN. And we have different news stations that represent different political spectrums. And then you watch the one that you agree with, and then you learn about how stupid the other side is, and vice versa. And you can listen to your YouTube commentators who are completely unfair to the other side. They'll talk to you in short sound bites to tell you how dumb. And whenever you hear someone say, "Oh my God, the Democrats are so incredibly stupid," are they really? Do you really think that this party is run by people who are stupid? If you really think that, man, there's something wrong with you, and you really need to find new channels to listen to, because they're feeding into this thing that it helps us to feel better about ourselves. Because if you're on the right and you think that the people over here are stupid, of course it makes you feel better about yourself. But also it makes you feel like you're smart, therefore. But what it also does is it makes it impossible for you to now talk to each other. And if you talk to each other, what you're going to find out is, we believe in a lot of the same stuff. And interestingly enough, we believe in a lot of the same stuff, but our parties don't believe in what we believe in. How can we keep supporting these parties? How come we don't look outside or start something new? No, we can't let people talk, because if you let people talk, turns out we agree on most things. So what you want to do is, if you want to control people, is you want to create this false dichotomy. There's this side and there's this side. You have a choice. Would you like this or this? And then you let them argue and fight and pretend and you make them think that there are differences between the two, when there really aren't. When you look at the differences in how the country was run, what was the difference between Obama and Bush? What was the difference between Obama and Trump? What's the difference between Trump and Biden? There are some small differences, but in terms of general policy, things don't change that much, depending on who runs these big things. That should stand out to us. It isn't like our country ever just takes this dramatic turn in a completely different direction depending on who we vote for. It doesn't happen that way anywhere. So that should give us pause. Another way of thinking of it is, there's this old movie called The Blues Brothers. Anybody ever heard of it? It was before my time, but my dad liked it. I remember seeing it. And it's got these guys, they were in a blues band, whatever, and blues and rock. And they show up, they're trying to get the band back together again. They broke up a long time ago. And they're trying to go on tour to raise money for an orphanage. And they go to this bar somewhere in the South, I don't know where it was. And again, they play like rock and blues, and they show up at this bar, and they're like, so what kind of music do you guys play here? And the bartender says, oh, we have both kinds of music, country and Western. Is there more than country and Western? Of course. But the idea is, to them, that's all that exists. And anything that's outside of that is completely unacceptable. It's not music. You shouldn't be playing it. So you give people a choice. Well, no, I'll let you choose. Would you rather play country or Western? Which one would you prefer to play? If you don't like playing country or Western, but you're conditioned to believe that those are the only two choices, you'll pick between two crappy options. It'd be like if I asked you guys, all right, you know what? It's time that you guys take more control over your own education. Would you guys rather have the test today or tomorrow? And then there'll be a vigorous debate about today or tomorrow. And what will inevitably win, by the way?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow will always win. And then there'll be like 5 people like, oh, we should have done it today. I'm like, well, I gave you guys a choice. Did I give you a choice? No, I told you the test is going to happen. I'm just letting you choose which day it's going to happen. And then that makes you feel like you have a choice. If I tell you, well, you can vote either Republican or Democrat, country or Western, well, I don't want either, but I guess I'll go with that one or the other one. The way that the smart way to keep people passive and obedient is to limit their spectrum of what's acceptable. These are the only two that are acceptable. If you're a libertarian, man, there's something desperately wrong with you. If you're part of the Reform Party, wasn't that the one that Jesse Ventura, wasn't he a conspiracy theorist? Yeah, don't follow that guy. Green Party, those guys are all about the environment. They'll destroy the economy. If you vote for that, you're an extremist. Anything outside of these two is an extremist. And as we know, extremists have to be stopped. If you're an extremist, well, shoot, we have to seize your GoFundMe. If you're an extremist, my goodness, we can't let you park on a highway somewhere in Ottawa. If you're an extremist, well, geez, the Prime Minister has to step in and declare himself emergency war powers, to stop you from parking on a highway somewhere. Because that's outside of what's acceptable. Because what's acceptable is going to be deemed whatever promotes the narrative, whatever keeps the current people who are in power in power. Doesn't it seem strange that this power balance always just seems to teeter like this, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth? It's almost like there's an agreement. Almost. I wouldn't say that there is, because that would be kind of extremist, wouldn't it? And I don't want my GoFundMe seized. So that gives you people a sense that you're free thinking. But as Noam Chomsky would say, nah. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques?